and we are live streaming.
Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's 5:05. I don't think Councilmember Ray would be upset if we started it a little early and get through some of this stuff. So I'm going to call on Councilmember Appel to lead us either in a moment of silence. Since we lit our Hanukkah candle last night at Marion Square. It actually was a wonderful event. Appreciate the mayor's Office of Cultural Affairs for doing that. And Councilman Appel was able to make a few remarks. So congratulations, Councilman Appel. So
thank you, Councilman Shade. I appreciate that. Let's reflect on the holiday season. And, part of what Hanukkah is all about is bringing light and illumination into the world. And for every candle we light, that's a little bit less darkness in our universe. So with that, let's all have our own moment of silence. Thank you.
thank you. Well done. Very good. December 5th minutes. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Any requests to set the public hearing, Mr. O'Brien? I guess not. And no old business.
No, sir. No, sir.
All right, we're down to item number E, the acceptance and dedication of rights of way and easements.
Mr. Vice Chairman, this is Wando Village Phase 2. This is 2 full streets and 1 portion of a street for a 56 lot phase of the subdivision off of Clements Ferry Road. Everything has been constructed with the exception of the sidewalks in front of the homes. Those have been bonded, and we're therefore recommending that this portion of the subdivision be entered into the city's maintenance system.
And the state of South Carolina is going to be responsible for all those sidewalk maintenance, right, Mr. O'Brien?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. Do we need to vote on that?
Yes, sir.
All those in favor of acceptance and dedication of the rights of way for Wando Village Phase 2, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have
And
it.
Mr. Vice Chairman, the chairman has joined the meeting.
Okay, we're ready to hand off the baton to Councilmember Waring.
That's a smooth handoff. Thank you so much for stepping in, Mr. Vice Chair. How's everybody doing?
We just got through E, Mr. Chair.
All right, great. Temporary encroachments, Mr. O'Brien.
Good afternoon, sir. Nothing out of the ordinary. We are therefore recommending, they've all been inspected and recommended for approval, and therefore we're recommending that and giving it to the committee as information only.
Okay, thank you, Mr. O'Brien. D, environmental services. Is that gonna be Mr. Altop or you, Mr.?
No, sir, I'm gonna do that today. Matt had another
Okay.
meeting, so I'll be giving that. Good news is that garbage and trash for the last 3 weeks have been on schedule. We've been doing a tremendous job with some assistance from Trident, but we're doing real well. We've also completed the cleanup of the debris site from Hurricane Ian. All that trash is gone. We've sent out notices for the holiday schedules, and that has been placed in the Post and Courier. And also we've sent out a notice for the Christmas tree removal, which will take place after the first of the year, letting people know the schedule for that.
Okay, man.
Mr. Chair,
Councilman Shea.
a quick question. Mr. O'Brien, is that scheduled on the city's app as well?
I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure it's been placed to it so far. If it's not, it should be up tomorrow, Mr. Shade. We've given it to Jack's and his people, and also to Meg's people in neighborhood services. But we'll, if not, I'll make sure you get it tomorrow. Okay.
Yeah, I just think we go get the inquiries from all of that.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. So that's about it, Mr. O'Brien. I want to thank all y'all work above and beyond with limited crews. I mean, we know it. I mean, every council person and the mayor certainly knows that. And it sure is good to have some of that in the rearview mirror. So appreciate all your extended efforts.
Thank you, sir.
Item H, Barberry Woods, Mr. Fountain.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the first item is basically to recommend approval of a grant award. This is a grant we previously applied from the South Carolina Conservation Bank. We were awarded the $100,000 contribution towards acquisition of a portion of 3 TMS numbers in support of the Barbary Woods Drainage Improvement Project. The city's portion of the acquisition will be $276,000, and that's within that initial existing allocation towards property acquisition within the drainage fund for this particular project.
Okay. What's the pleasure of the committee? Is
Move for
there a
approval.
motion? Properly moved, and who's the second?
Second.
Mayor seconds it. Any more discussion on Barbary Woods? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. H2, Camp Road Drainage Basin.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is a collaborative drainage area we've been working on with the town of James Island, and I can certainly pull up a map if that's helpful. But it's sort of the drainage basin that runs in the area of Folly and Camp around the Bishop Gadsden community.
Right.
Most of the drainage from Folly Road and the west side of Folly Road and the south of Camp in that area kind of flows up and through the Bishop Gadsden area and out in the marsh. Down closer to Folly Road, there's quite a bit of flooding and other drainage issues. This has been one of the main priority issues for the town of James Island for drainage improvements, as a significant portion of the basin is within the town. And you'll see from the agenda item, the cost split at 63.5% is because of the relative jurisdictional area. So that's the amount of area in the town. So what we're proposing to do is basically put together a memorandum of agreement, do a collaborative cost share on a drainage study that the town would manage with their consultant, Thomas and Hutton, to identify what potential improvement projects could be done for drainage in this area. So this isn't funding any of the improvements yet, just trying to do the engineering work to evaluate what those improvements would need to be. We estimate the city share at approximately $25,000 and look for consideration of council on that action.
Okay.
Move for approval.
Properly moved, and Councilman Pell, is that you?
Second.
All right.
Go James Island.
All right. Mr. Mayor.
I was just curious, Matt, and the basin might flow out to various outfalls, but does this one also traverse the Dills track? I was just curious, since we recently, worked with them on that other outfall coming through Ferguson Village.
So this, Mayor, and I can pull up a map if that's helpful, but this is the area that would be slightly east of where Ferguson Village outfalls. So this is everything basically up to Ferguson Village, but not including Ferguson Village.
I see.
Does it get close to Camp and Riverland Drive?
Yeah, I'll pull the map up really quick so we can see it.
Okay, good.
And the map has a lot of information going on, so it's not the easiest map to process, but Camp Road is here, kind of in the northern portion of the map.
Right.
Folly Road is sort of the big northwest running road with the lines. The drainage basin is this red highlight that comes through it. And then the primary drainage channel is this yellow that comes from the marsh across Camp, kind of again through the Bishop Gadsden area, and then comes back parallel to Yorktown, comes over and then ties back into Folly Road. So the Folly Camp intersection has some discharge that comes this way. The streets kind of around Yorktown have quite a bit of drainage that comes this way. And then obviously the Bishop Gadsden community itself, and the school as well drains into this system. So a lot of the flooding we've seen has been sort of the sections that back up to Folly Road in this kind of between Folly and Yorktown, have quite a bit of ponding water. But there are also some issues over on Linton and some of the other streets. So it's one that I know that, again, the town's priority is because of this area near Yorktown that sees some severe flooding, and that section is mostly within the town. But obviously there's a lot of consideration from all of us in making sure Folly Road drains properly here, Camp Road drains properly here, and then any impacts to the Bishop Gadsden system, of course, is where all that water comes through eventually. So it's a good one for the city to be a partner in what's going on and what's being recommended in the area.
I couldn't agree more. Any more questions from committee members? Let's carry the motion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Mr. Fountain. H3, update recent emergency repairs.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this one is related to 3 items that I think are on bids and purchases tomorrow. I just wanted to make sure that if the committee had any questions, we had a An item for emergency pumping during the recent hurricane event with Ian. It was just over $40,000 for basically the emergency pumps we deploy mostly in the downtown area, King UG, along the Battery, kind of the Calhoun West area as well. There's a couple other locations. So that's one item. Again, we budget for that every year. It's within our actual operations budget, but it's because it came over $40,000 due to how long the storm lasted and having to move the pumps back and forth with the tide. The price is high enough to come through council. The other two were more traditional emergency repairs. We had one emergency repair on Rutledge and Broad. It was actually a vitrified clay pipe that had failed, and we had to close that intersection or close one of the lanes in that area, do some traffic rerouting. So that will be on bids and purchases. And then there was a brick arch failure, which obviously we're all relatively more familiar with on Northern Cumming Street, that we did some repair as well. So if any questions of those, I'm happy to provide information to prevent any issues tomorrow, but just want to make sure we are aware that and unfortunately, that sort of business as usual, even though they are emergencies because of the impact to the traveling public and safety, but certainly able to answer questions if there are any.
Any questions from committee members? Councilmember Seekings, I see his hand up. You're muted.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm behind the masked wall tonight because I'm on my way to celebrate my mother's 90th birthday. So
isn't that wonderful, man? That's great.
how about that? But next time you see my mom, don't tell her I let on to actually how old she was when she comes to city council.
You got some of those genes in you, Councilmember Seekings.
So anyway, I just wanted to, with Matt's report, just sort of give Matt and his team kudos. I mean, in addition to all of the challenges that they have with ongoing large-scale projects, it's amazing the number of things that pop up, and the things that he described tonight were either in District 8 or sort of around District 8. The pumps during the storm were incredibly helpful. They really moved that water out faster than it would have gotten out otherwise. And then that crazy sinkhole on Cumming Street that just appeared out of nowhere. I mean, they jumped all over that. That was, I think Matt will tell you that literally that road was being held up by the manhole cover and just a very little infrastructure. It could have been a full on in the middle of the road collapse. And again, all the teams jumped on it. So just want to say thanks and just point up how many stresses there are on that department on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. And you never know what's going to come up. So thank you and good job. I certainly will be in favor of voting for those bids and purchases. Money very well spent.
Thanks for the additional information. Any additional comment, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, I was going to say essentially the same thing as Councilmember Seekings. I had a number of citizens, Matt, who called after the storm and thanked me, thanked the city for what seemed to be a little more robust placement of pumps and resources out there that y'all did. I think just over time you figured out more locations, and I guess with that cleaning out of the archway tunnel that we've done so far, I think y'all placed a pump that just speeded up the movement of water through that system, and that really helped further upstream, so to speak, to get water out. Correct me if I'm wrong, but
that's right. That's right, Mayor. Basically, Mr. Newham, with the work we've done at the low battery and on the tunnels, has been able to basically shift the pumps from where they used to go across roadways and have to block roadways to now be able to pump down from the low battery basically out in most locations, which has been tremendously helpful.
Yeah, it moves a lot more water out quicker, and it was noted by a number of citizens who called in. So again, I know it went over 40, but I'd say it was well worth the effort, and again, my thanks as well.
Any other comments? Let me ask a question, Mr. Fountain. I know from time to time, I remember you told me we have maybe a few pumps, and then sometimes we rent pumps for some of these heavy rain events. At some point in time, does it make sense for the city to own some pumps? Just so I hate to say it, some of these events happening more frequently.
Yeah, no, it's a really good question, Mr. Chairman. So we have looked into that. The challenge that we have right now is the way we're set up with staffing We actually use contractors to rent and deploy the pumps. And then Mr. Newham and one of our inspectors basically do the oversight, make sure they're deployed correctly, figure out when to turn them on and off. And actually Councilman Seekins comes out sometimes and helps refuel and start some of the pumps for us as well.
Union wages, Mayor. That's what I'm going to be charging for that work.
Right. We have Councilman Shade handing out trash cans, I think, and Councilman Appel cleaning out some ditches for us. And Councilman Bowden's been doing some neighborhood outreach on some of our projects for us with some angry neighbors next to his house. But yes, that's where we are, Mr. Chairman. We have looked at purchasing. One of the challenges with pumps of this type is they are relatively high maintenance. And we don't do a lot of small engine repair work in-house. So it generally is cheaper for us to rent and deploy. Most of the money you see is actually the cost of the contractor labor, who will basically go out there during hurricane type events and deploy pumps and refuel pumps, which is something that's challenging sometimes with our own safety and risk requirements. But the contractors have their own safety risk plans and do their own hazard work, and certainly are insured for it. So it's been generally supported well and worked out well, but we do continually reassess to see where we can save money by bringing items in-house when possible.
Okay. I'm thinking about people who obviously, if we had a pump, we would deploy it kind of situations. Councilman Shea, you had your hand up? Okay.
Yes, sir. And this is not really on the exact topic we're talking about, but I think we all are aware that this coming weekend, this Christmas weekend, we're going to see some severe cold weather. I'm just sort of maybe a question for both Matt and Tom. What are we anticipating, if anything, that we need to be prepared for? Because we're talking about temperatures down into the 20s with a hard freeze. Is there some, besides just telling folks, make sure you bleed your pipes? I know that's sort of an old-fashioned thing we do in Charleston, but is there anything else we need to be worried about from y'all's perspective, gentlemen?
And I mean, and Mr. O'Brien, certainly feel free to chime in as well. But I mean, traditionally, Councilman Shade, the bridges are the area that are the biggest concern, because you'll have the wind come under the bridges. Bridges will freeze first if anything freezes. DOT and the sheriff's office will generally monitor the bridges and close them if they hit icing or dangerous temperatures. DOT and the county do have basically a salt operation that they'll deploy to try to reduce any freezing. But mostly for us, it's the history has been kind of noticed to stay off the roads once it gets icy or dangerous, and wait till we see it thaw. I mean, that's sort of the way that we approach it. We don't have a snow fighting force. We do have salt, again, if it's only the bridges that become a problem. But once it goes beyond the bridges, it's generally please be safe, please stay home, don't get yourself in trouble.
Yeah,
Mr. Chairman, also, Mr. Shade, also from our public service standpoint, interestingly enough, we met with emergency management and DOT last week to go over our annual snow and ice plan. So that was just last week. So we now, everybody just remembers their assignments, and we've also, so we actually have a couple that there are attachments we put on some trucks to do our portion of that. DOT does most of it. We do take care of certain areas that we take care of, and our crews will be monitoring, and Daniel Fleisis and Ben give us good information, helps us prepare and have people ready to do if we need to deploy those forces.
It just couldn't come at a worse time. I know people will be on leave, and it's Christmas time. But it sounds like we're prepared and we're aware of it. So everybody, I think the advice is, if it gets that bad, stay off the road.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor. Sure, Mr. Mayor.
On another front, but related, Emily Beck, who is our homeless coordinator, she's monitoring the opening of regional warming shelters. We expect Aldersgate and North Charleston to be open, Hibben and Mount Pleasant. Seacoast now, rather than Savannah Highway, is going to be operating a warming shelter in Somerville. And so Emily puts out a notice, literally every day of who's going to be open, and then the next day she reports how many people took advantage of those warming shelters last night. As a matter of fact, there were 20 people at Aldersgate, only 2 up in Somerville. Hibben hadn't opened yet, but we expect them to open this weekend. So anyway, we're trying to keep an eye on all that and facilitate transportation to these shelters for anybody in need.
Okay. I've got a couple of things. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. O'Brien.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted, while Matt was giving his report, I just want to let Councilmember Shade know that I did check that that information on the scheduling is been put out by the city in social media and also on the website.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
On the miscellaneous, couple of things I want to bring up for the, I guess, we had discussion. Mr. Mayor, I don't know if planning had a chance to brief you. We had a very good meeting over with Mr. Jim Palacios, and
I heard that went well.
it really went well.
Yeah.
I had a discussion that led to a meeting with, I was wanting to change some of the rules with the design review board, in particular as applies West Ashley, in particular south of I'm gonna say DuPont Road headed south, and not any, still not any iconic historic buildings in that area. But there was a feeling out there that they thought property taxes were more in the city than they are in the PSD. Of course, that's been taken care of. And that discussion, because Councilman Shade was kind enough to join in, it looks like there's a possibility of that there's a courtyard by Marriott that's going to be built. That would be in the PSD, not the city. In that same block, I think on Orleans, in between Orleans Road, in between Sam Rittenberg and Savannah. And of course, the 4-star hotel Mr. Palacios is planning on building. And then he's actually got designs on even a 3rd hotel. That would be, well, I say a 3rd hotel, his 2nd hotel within that block, which that parcel is in the city. So my takeaway was, it looks like it's going to be potentially the better part of $150 to $200 million worth of development in that one block between Sam Rittenberg, Savannah, bordered by DuPont Road and Orleans Road. That's the same tract that I made mention that there are 43 parcels there, 40 are zoned commercial somewhere the up. I think 3 of them, of which 3 of them zoned residential. Of the 43 lots, 13 are in the city, and 30 aren't. But Mr. Summerfield, looks like they're working on some modifications to that ordinance that they'll be coming forward with. Mr. Palacios had a building in there that he had conversations about demolishing, and anyway, that didn't work out too good. So he's putting in an application, but hopefully some good discussions with some new blood around the design corridor review board can hopefully see logistics, and we'll see. I think they're going to be in the agenda for first meeting in January for the design corridor review board. But the net, it was a very good meeting. Mr. Summerfield came up with and he had made mention this when we had a meeting just between myself and staff leading up to the meeting with a couple of business people over there that own property in that area about offering a concierge service. Because one of the things that Jim Palacios made mention about was when he did the Home 2 suites, calls not being returned, that kind of thing. When I will minimize that, because when you're trying to get a project done, obviously architect, engineers, etc. need calls returned. Mr. Summerfield said that he recommended this concierge service, but obviously to do that, you got to get a staff, you got to have somebody funded to do that. I thought it was a really good idea to pick up services from the standpoint of, in particular, if we're going to revitalize West Ashley, as opposed to, time is money when it comes to that stuff, in particular when it comes to the inflation that everybody's experiencing right now. So I just wanted to share the fact that I did not know, I don't know whether you did, Mr. Mayor, or any other council members on here, that Courtyard by Marriott was in final planning stages in that same area, but also in the unincorporated area. We knew about Mr. Palacios' properties and his 2 properties, but again, I still say you'd be hard pressed to find an area as contained as Savannah to Sam Rittenberg, bordered by DuPont and Orleans Road, that has 43 parcels, 40 of them zoned commercial. You're talking about an area that's just poised to, I think, explode. That would be that area. One of the big pieces that David Ginn with the Regional Development Alliance speaks to is the need for back office space for Boeing and companies in that area. This site is, what is it, a block from 526? So hypothetically, office buildings, if they were to, some were to locate there, they could be at the Boeing site no time flat by hitting 526 and getting on across the Ashley River. So we definitely need to kind of don't take a blasé attitude towards this. I think this is something that we can create some synergies. Charleston Place, as you know, Mr. Mayor, was big for downtown in an area that was, I remember Mayor Rowley well describing it as, when he was in school, he used to go down to the market and for $5, get a pizza, a pitcher of beer, and VD, all for $5. That's how that area was. The thing about it was the truth.
Those were the days, huh?
Yeah, today nobody would believe you if you mentioned something like that. Anyway, I digress. Councilman Shade.
I just wanted to echo what you were saying, Councilman Warren, and I got to the meeting a little late. We were having our Rotary holiday luncheon, so got there as soon as I could. But I thought it was a very good discussion we had at Mr. Palacios' place, and the properties that you're talking about off that whole section, which sort of intersects your district, my district, I think some of Councilmember Pell's district as well.
Right.
Is in need of some tender loving care. We've been out there and we've seen it, but the impact it's going to have on our revitalization efforts will be huge. Councilmember Pell and I were, after the lighting of the memorial last night, met this woman who mentioned to us, if Councilmember Pell, help me out, she has a bagel place on Orleans Road.
Yeah.
We were talking to her last night, and so she's, and we were bringing up the same discussion last night. And I haven't been out there to visit her yet, but so she's sort of the frontier, I guess, of opening up that establishment.
Yeah, talking bagels at a Hanukkah candle lighting. That's pretty Jewish right there, I got to tell you.
Where's it located? The bagel place on Orleans.
It's on Orleans Road. Is it Orleans Road in DuPont, Councilmember Pell?
Yeah, it's right across from that FedEx Kinko's and where Thai restaurant is over there.
Right, I know Thai restaurant. Yeah,
okay. Yeah, they make a good bagel over there.
Yeah, thanks. I'll think about running around there. Yeah.
But that shopping center is actually in a donut hole or a bagel. Since we're on the topic, which is just sort of unique in that area.
Well, I'll definitely go and visit. Let me ask this. One other thing came up. Now, maybe not for this committee, but certainly to be passed on to another committee. Mr. Mayor, there was quite a bit of discussion about it. Apparently, there's a sizable homeless encampment off the Greenway, Councilman Appel, behind Home 2 Suites and Holiday Inn Express.
Oh, yeah.
The owner of Holiday Inn Express was also at this meeting. And he, along with Mr. collapses, I think they spent, he said, upwards of $80,000 to put additional fencing up there because from this homeless encampment, they've been having cars being broken and actually had cars stolen out of the hotel's parking lot. And as people would leave the building, for instance, Home 2 Suites, and the door would slam behind them, sometimes some of the homeless people will get to the door before it closes, and then they up the stairwell, trying to, infiltrate the hotel. So, I mean, from a law enforcement perspective, I guess we need to, I guess this needs to be reported to, which committee, Mr. Mayor, but, and Councilman Shahid, you were there, you heard it.
Probably public safety. Be part
Public
of it.
safety, but definitely some attention needs to be brought to that. I mean, to the point of cars being stolen, windows being broken, and people trying to infiltrate the hotel. They've actually caught them up in the stairwell in Home 2 Suites. So I don't believe we can. I didn't even know a big old encampment was back there. Right? So, Councilman Appel, you got to get on your bike and ride down there and see what's going on. But,
So I trust that when some particular incident occurs that he's calling 911 and reporting to the police.
I would hope so.
Responding, we always do if we get the call. So I did know last year when Seacoast had their warming shelter there, Savannah Highway, that there were some homeless individuals on the DOT property right across the fence from the church, and they were coming over to stay at the warming center when it got really really cold. Is that property behind the hotels, is that city property or DOT property? Do we know?
I don't know. They just describe it as the Greenway. So, I haven't been back there. So.
Yeah. Well, I'll certainly report it to Emily and have our folks check them out. Sometimes, even with the offer of services and help, folks don't want our help, but we'll check it out. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
And the last thing I'll bring up, Mr. Fountain, if we can put, and Mr. Brown, if we can put for the January meeting, first meeting in January, I guess an update on the doo-wop drainage piece. Mr. Mayor, if you got 3 hotels getting ready to get off the ground in the doo-wop drainage district, we have to do something to try to ramp up. What you pulled together, quite frankly, the first, when we had that doo-wop planning session between the county and the city, try to understand that drainage basin and what's going on over there. I know I've seen it. I've talked to Councilman Appel about it months ago, but there's another idea out there, Mr. Fountain, and you may be familiar with it, where some of the water, that comes from underneath Savannah Highway into the doo-wop drainage district, circles through the doo-wop drainage district, and then goes back from the mall back underneath Savannah Highway out to the Stono. I know there's some thinking out there to keep some of the water. I don't know when you're riding south on Savannah, if you're riding south, I guess that would be east of Savannah Highway, over by where Stono Elementary and all of that. I guess that's east of, maybe it's west. I don't know.
I think it would be west.
It would be west. It would be west. So on the west side of Savannah, there's some water that's coming from that side.
Back to the east.
Back to the east underneath, and then circling through like a big old C, and then eventually going back under through that big canal in front of the mall there, kind of like behind South Park office, what used to be South Park office building. And there's some thinking of keeping that water, digging a canal, basically that goes down the Greenway, and that water would stay on the west side of Savannah, never entering the doo-wop drainage basin to compete with you know how we got a confluence of water coming in different directions there. But anyway, I'd like the opportunity to revisit that and to see where are we from the standpoint of being able to get some improvements. Maybe we can, in conjunction with obviously some of the private sector efforts and what they want to do, whether they do it in the county or certainly with in the city, that coordination with somewhere between 150 and 200 million worth of development can help accelerate improvements in the doo-wop drainage district, which I believe touch 5 city council districts one way or the other. I think I know it certainly touches district I represent, touches Councilmember Shade, Councilmember Appel, and Councilmember Brady. And Councilmember Bowd, I don't know if you're lucky enough to come down. How far down do you come down? Do you take in Shaftesbury?
No, not even close.
Oh, you don't? Okay. All right. But you're a good guy. I'll pull you in anyway. Anyway, so if you put that on the agenda and we have some conversation between now and then, kind of see where we are. Beyond that, are there any final comments? Listen, it's been a good year. We got a lot done in public works. A lot of people, ditches got clean and pipes got clean and pipes got replaced. And, you know, projects, new easements got in place. Drainage areas in particular, Councilmember Appel. Forest Park is being done now with roads being blocked. I haven't been so happy, Mr. Fountain, to see people being diverted because that meant progress is being people being inconvenienced, but the final fixes are being in place for some people. So I think it's been an extremely good year from the standpoint of public works and in particular with the drainage problem that we talk about, but solutions are beginning to be put in place. We still have miles to go, but we've got some miles behind us to be proud of. So thank you, Mr. Fountain, Mr. Bryan, Mr. Mayor, all council members, and certainly all staff, everybody. Thank you for, as opposed to saying what we didn't do, we got quite a story to tell on what has been accomplished. I look forward to seeing all you gents and ladies tomorrow. Have a good one. By acclamation.